Keep your budget simple with the 50-30-20ths rule. The 50-30-20ths rule of thumb is a way to allocate your budget according to three categories: needs, wants, and financial goals. What is the 50-30-20ths rule of thumb? The 50-30-20ths rule of thumb is a set of easy guidelines for how to plan your budget. Using them, you allocate your after-tax income to the following categories. 50% to needs. Needs are what you can't live without, or at least not very easily. Rent, groceries, utilities, such as electricity, water, and sewer service. 30% to wants. Wants are what you desire but don't actually need in order to survive. Hobbies, vacations, dining out. 20% to financial goals. This category covers two main areas. All savings, such as retirement contributions, saving for a house, and setting money aside in a 529 college savings plan. Note that contributions to a 401k come from your pre-tax income. Debt payments. How to use the 50-30-20ths rule of thumb for budgeting. Calculate your monthly income. Add up how much you receive in your bank account each month. Calculate a spending threshold for each category. Multiply your take-home pay by 0.50 for needs, 0.30 for wants, and 0.20 for financial goals to see how much you should ideally spend in each category. Plan your budget around these numbers. Think of these three categories as buckets that you can fill with monthly expenses. Follow your budget. Track your expenses each month and make changes where needed in order to stick to your spending thresholds going forward. Why the 50-30-20ths rule of thumb generally works. That's one reason the 50-30-20ths rule of thumb works so well. It's an easy way to get a handle on something that can otherwise be intimidating. Even if you don't take it any further by tracking how well you stick to these targets, it's still a good way to take your financial pulse. Can be difficult for low-income people. If you're earning just enough to make ends meet, you may struggle to save 20% of your income regardless of how you live, especially if you're supporting a family. The 50-30-20ths rule of thumb versus other budgeting methods. The 50-30-20ths rule of thumb isn't the only game in town. Here are a few other budgeting techniques that might work better for you. The 80-20ths rule. With this method, you immediately set aside 20% of your income for savings. The other 80% is yours to spend on whatever you want, with no tracking involved. The 70-20-10ths rule. This rule is similar to the 50-30-20ths rule of thumb, but you instead parse out your budget as follows: 70% to living expenses, 20% to debt payments, and 10% to savings. How does tithing figure into the 50-30-20ths rule? When it comes to tithing or any other religious expense, individuals can decide for themselves whether that's something they want or need. Where does credit card debt go in the 50-30-20ths rule? That means you should allocate 20% of your budget towards some combination of paying down debt and saving for the future. How much of your paycheck should you spend with the 50-30-20ths rule? The 50-30-20ths rule doesn't specify how much of each paycheck you should spend. The percentage of your paycheck that you spend or save largely depends on the 20% financial goal category. If your main financial goal is to reduce debt, you'll be spending more of your paycheck on that. If your main financial goal is to save up an emergency fund, then you'll be saving more of your paycheck. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell.